Hello, Team Social Studies. Dr. Bradshaw here. So, unfortunately, in class, I ran out of time or completely forgot to go over your comments with your lesson plan. So, I thought I could share your comments and then how I might address them with the lesson plan. I'm sorry, my allergies are getting to me. Using a Screencast-O-Matic video. Please note, this video is going out to both my middle grades and my secondary students. So I don't like doing videos like this very much, so I thought I would just combine you guys together. You have the same lesson plan, so some things were true for some students and not true for others, and that's fine because I wanted you guys to find errors in here. It's part of, being critical and learning how to grade. So just realize there may be a little bit of differentiation there. But the thing that I did is I looked at your lesson plans in the Google Doc, the comments that you made. I also looked at the rubrics, and I tried to mesh them all into one document. So all of the comments that you see over here, these are actually your comments that I put in here so that I can just see them nice and clear. So everybody's comments should be on here. If I missed yours by some reason, or for some reason, please let me know. If you have a question about it, just send me an email. Well, let's go ahead and get started because I have a feeling this is going to take a little while. Alright, so first thing, comment I saw was need end time. Absolutely. Please make sure that you put your beginning and end time. This is really important because many of you are in block scheduling, and that totally changes how much I expect for you to complete in a class period. Grade level, yes, that definitely needs to be there. I left it off, honestly, because you guys are teaching different grade levels, and this is actually for a higher ed class, so it's just very confusing which one to put there, but make sure that you do have your own grade level listed. Next, you have the differentiation box. Okay, these are completely made up. They're not real, but I do expect you to fill this out appropriately for your students, because this is going to have to match up with the accommodation that you list later on. And so I want to see what you're doing for the IEP student, what you're doing for the gifted student, what you're doing for the advanced student, what you're doing for the 504s, the ELL, underperforming. I need you to tell me specifically. So make sure that those numbers are listed. If you don't have any, then you just need to write 0. Okay. Okay. Here we have the central focus. So the central focus does mention the main activity and the coordinating assessment, but it is vague in connecting to the standards. I agree with that assessment. I can tell you the reason that I made it vague is because I use this lesson plan for both middle grades and secondary, and as you noticed in the standards section, there's a whole bunch of standards there. So I do agree with that, and I think that you should have just a couple more words you can add in to make it connect more directly with the standard. The student number. So actually, middle grades, this was an inaccurate number for you. For my secondary students, it actually is an accurate number. I feel like this is unnecessary. I would think lethargy is pretty common, especially with high schoolers. So I have to disagree with you. You will have some very intense classes in high school and middle school. It just depends on the season, if the moon is full, la-di-da. It's really, this kind of knowledge in planning your lessons is so crucial, okay? You don't want to try and do certain things on Valentine's Day or the day after Halloween. You need to know what your students, try and guess how your students are going to feel, and after a couple of years of teaching, you're going to have this very well established. Certain things are easier on certain days, so think about the state of mind of your students. After lunch, students are always really tired. Beginning of morning, somewhat tired. but that last period class is always the rowdiest. Because, it's the end of the day. So you need to think about those things when you're planning your lessons and how you do things. Because oftentimes I would teach a lesson one way first period and change it up for 7th period because of the behavior of the students. Okay, going down. Yes, it says standards from different grade levels. This never should be what I see on your lesson plan, okay? But this is just because this is sort of a weird lesson plan about how to teach lesson plans, and I have high school and middle school teachers in this class that I use the lesson plan for. It's a lot of standards listed here. So here's what I expect you guys to do. First off, you need to understand the difference between standard and elements. So this part right here, this is the standard, okay? And then A and B, C, those things, those are called your elements. These things right here. So you always need to list the standard, but if you're not teaching element B, then I would only list element A. And I know the thing is about social studies standards is that sometimes you can get so much jam-packed into one little element, and you may only be teaching like 2 words of the element that day. And that is okay. You just need to clarify that when you're talking about your learning targets. So I would not have all of these standards listed. You want to go for just what is the clear focus of your lesson plan for that day in your lesson, for the thing that you write up for me. Now, let me give you a bit of advice though. When you're teaching in your classroom and you have to post your lesson on the board, I would probably list all of the elements, because sometimes conversations can go, a little wide when you're teaching. And it's kind of a cover your bases, as if the administrators walk in and they're like, why are you talking about this? And you're like, well, it's related to this part of the standard. So it's just giving you a little bit of justification. But for lesson plans, let's keep it short and simple, short and sweet. Just give me the standard and the element that is being taught. What's this all cover? Oh yeah, so here, this standard seems probably very random to you guys, but this was part of the reading. I would not expect you to include that on a lesson plan unless you're addressing it specifically. But like I said, for your classroom, kind of cover all your bases. If I were coming in there to observe you student teaching, that's something a little different. But for your lesson plan, short and sweet, don't put anything extra on there, because I'm going to look for learning targets and objectives to match them. Okay. This seems unrelated to the central focus. So let's go back, let's read this first, and then we'll reread the central focus. The student will explain the impact of the Columbian Exchange on Latin America and Europe in terms of the decline of indigenous population, agricultural change, and the introduction of the horse. Okay, so part of this, I think, is addressed well. Central focus of the lesson is eligibility of Christopher Columbus. Here, contributions of Christopher Columbus. Assess his eligibility as historical hero and determine how his life should be explored in social studies courses. Students will reflect on their understanding, blah, 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 blah. So there is an element of this in that central focus, which I would say is the impact of the Columbian Exchange on Latin America and Europe, because that definitely came up in the discussion. But we didn't talk about the introduction of the horse. We didn't talk about those things. Sometimes the standards are really hyper-specific. But if I am including this in my lesson plan, you want to have clear connections to it in the central focus. So I agree with you that this needs to be clarified, okay, with the unrelated focus, so unrelated to the central focus. add learning target for World War I standard. That does need to be added if we kept that standard in, but honestly that was kind of like to confuse you a bit, so we really just need to take that standard out for this lesson plan because we didn't talk about it. Okay, this is a really good one. So here we have, academic language. We have function and demand that's put into a chart form. So I have the function analyze. The demand, that is the class discourse through the four corners debate, explain, and the demand would be write an acrostic poem of Columbus. And so no explanation of any of the academic language and demands, function, analyze, and explain should all have more to why each is important to the lesson. So I wouldn't say there's no explanation, but it definitely needs to be more explanation. So class discourse through a four corners debate, and give me some details, just a little bit more detail here. We don't need to write an essay, just a little bit more to make those clear connections back to me. Really, lesson plans are incredibly redundant. It feels incredibly redundant, but it's just making sure you can make the connections between everything. Here, there was something added, which vocab? How many gay students in the lesson's vocabulary usage? Specific vocabulary within debate. So, here's something. They used to have you list the vocabulary, so you could put a couple of words here, the vocabulary words, but I would not list too much because you don't want to get dinged for that. Essential questions are crucial for social studies. Please, as this person said, make them open-ended. So should Christopher Columbus be considered a hero? All I would need to say is why or why not? Like why should he be considered a hero? Or how is it that Christopher Columbus is considered a hero? Or how is it that Christopher Columbus should not be considered a hero? Making it open-ended is an easy fix because you don't want them to just say yes, no. Grammar. So there's a lot of grammar stuff here, and absolutely, guys, please check your grammar. Simple things like adding s, ed periods, because I will have to take off points for that, and that's just annoying to take off points and lose points for. No evidence of assessment and feedback. So all you need to do here is just list specifically how you're going to give that feedback. It's just a couple of words. Feedback will be given through blah, 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 okay? And just add that to what we have for assessments. Where are we seeing multiple perspectives in the acrostic? Is that before or after the video? So, yes, I do think that there are multiple perspectives in the acrostic. That is coming from, remember, the instructions is, first we're doing the poem just based on the video, and then we're looking at the poem, we're looking at the map, and we're looking at the debate, and putting those together to create the new acrostic poem. So I think this person is saying I need to be more clear with that, and I'm fine with that. Adding more details is not going to hurt my feelings. Okay, so here we have the time limit things. Yes, you do need to write time limits because you have to try and get a handle on how long things are going to go. Otherwise, your lessons will end too quickly, or they will not, or you won't have enough time. So I do expect you to map out the minutes. But let's try and make them a heck of a lot more accurate than mine, because I don't know if you guys noticed this. I wrote 30 minutes. Nobody highlighted it, I don't think, for the interactive map, which we did in like 5 minutes. So make sure that they are accurate. Wiggle room is fine, but there was no way that map activity was going to take 30 minutes. Okay. Not enough debate. I don't know, I feel like we actually did kind of finish it in about 15 minutes, but, you can expand that debate time however you like. There needs to be more specific. Yes, okay, so here we have our differentiation supports, and this is where students lose a lot of points. I had closed captioning preferential seating listed, but there's so much more that you need to list there. So make sure it matches what is listed at the beginning. I'm about to run out of time, but one final thing is make sure I have all the information and all the materials. You see that I was missing handout